Hello everyone and welcome back to the penultimate race of our F125 My Team Career Mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here in Losail for the Qatar Grand Prix. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a couple of days ago from Las Vegas, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. 2 races left of the campaign, and things are looking very, very spicy up towards the top of the table. George Russell, he could leave this weekend as Formula 1 World Champion. Charles Leclerc, 32 points back. Lando Norris, 34 points back at the moment. Sorry, Charles Leclerc, 28 points back, I should say. Lando Norris, 32 back as we head into this weekend. It does mean, like I said, Russell could be champion, but very, very easily. If Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc wins the Grand Prix, depending on what happens in the sprint, they will head into Abu Dhabi, still with a shot at the crown. Ferrari, they have got an opportunity to wrap up the constructors this weekend. Basically, they just need both of their drivers to do well, and they will most likely wrap up that with 1 race to go. But yeah, Vegas last weekend was a fairly topsy-turvy race for us. Admittedly, we got a little bit lucky towards the end of the afternoon. Alex Albon suffered a puncture, and that means we are back ahead of him in the Drivers' World Championship, racing as Yuki Tsunoda. And of course, as we head into this weekend, I want to try and hang on to that as best as we can. Of course, really now trying to get stuff ready and prepared for Season 3 of this career mode. Still trying to do as many facility upgrades as I possibly can. You can see on the engineering side of things, we've got a couple more upgrades that are pretty much ready to go, but so many more that we need to do inside of this game as well. I don't even know if there's a way that we can buy more slots to be able to do more upgrades as well. Perhaps that's something I should have looked at. But yeah, it's just, at the moment, we're kind of a little bit stuck inside this game. I won't lie to you guys. Make sure you get yourself subscribed, though. Leave a like on the video if you do go on to enjoy. Of course, this is a sprint weekend, so timestamps will be linked down below as always. Also, if you want early access to the season finale out in Abu Dhabi, you can click that join button now. It costs just £1 a month, but like I said, you get early access to all the content. But without further ado then, let's head here to Qatar.
It's all about flow and pace today, qualifying in Qatar, a high-speed test that will set the grid for tomorrow's race. So welcome along.
Well, around a circuit like Qatar then, in F125, in a sprint qualifying, you only get 1 shot each time round to try and get the lap hooked up, otherwise the tyres will just get far too badly worn out. Let's see what we can do though, as we head out in Q1. I want to be quietly confident as we head into this weekend. I feel this could be a really good circuit for our car, so hopefully we're able to deliver a good result as well then. Already up over 200 miles an hour as we make our way down towards turn 1. Let's not forget just how high you run the downforce around this circuit to try and get the car to work through these twisty bits, all of these long flowing corners around this venue. So ERS management as well, absolutely critical when you try and get around the lap as well. Up through the top of the circuit, nice and tidy through the first part, right on the white line through the second part as well. We've got to give it everything here. I want to be inside that top 10 at the bare minimum. Let's have a look. What's the split time to Nico Hülkenberg? By the time we get into Sector 3, we are 2.6 seconds up on the Sauber. That's not all that impressive inside this game, although I suppose Sauber IRL have often gone well, even in recent years when they've struggled more with car performance. What will Hulk be able to do in November when we get back here? But through the final corner then, this first lap felt like a pretty decent banker lap. Hopefully the time is gonna show that. We go P7. As long as it gets us into Q2, I'm happy. Well, there we are then. Charles Leclerc fastest in Q1, the only driver to dip into the 1:18. Isaac Hadjar, he makes it through again though, but once more just by the skin of his teeth. Pepe Marti, Jack Crawford, both Alpines, both kick Saubers out in Q1. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, he has a big chance tonight for Haas, but he doesn't look to be that quick either, barely squeaking through into Q2. As long as I match the time we did in Q1, we should be safely through and into Q3 then here. Trying to get the power down out of the final corner. Isaac Hadjar, he is currently quicker than both Aston Martins, but definitely still struggling. Antonelli, though, right up on the cusp as well, so we might be about to deny Haas a golden opportunity here. But, of course, before we start thinking about any of that, we've just got to make sure we get our own lap hooked up. Colapinto right on the cusp as well. I believe Alex Albon is currently in P10, so it'd be really ideal for us if we can shove him down the order a bit more as Colapinto improves now. Go quicker than Paul Aaron and up. Oh, I don't know if he's up in 10th place there or maybe he's just slotted into 11th. Either way, clearly the AI are, or some of them, able to find a little bit more time here towards the end of the session. But what are we able to do? We were 3/4 of a second up in Sector 1, but I don't believe the time set by Liam Lawson is much of a representative. See 1.5 seconds up then on Paul Aaron by the time we get through to the end of Sector 2, so yeah, the lap time really is coming to us here, as I mean, this final sector only got a break once throughout this entire final sector of the lap there, is a little bit wide. Ever so slightly through there, just trying to scrub off as little speed as we possibly can. Attack the curb, get on the battery on the exit, power back down towards the start-finish line. It is going to be a 1:19.0. We go P2. Well, there we are. Lando Norris this time round down into the 1:18. So Ferrari, they've clearly again got the pace in the car. It's just getting it hooked up for both drivers. It is proving a little bit difficult here. But that lap time by us did knock Alex Albon out in Q2. So at least hopefully we're going to be outscoring him in the sprint race. But yeah, this car really does come alive around the high downforce circuits. Singapore we did really well. Hopefully Qatar's going to be the same. Well, Max Verstappen then, just like we've seen him do so many times in real life, just when you count him out in a qualifying session, he suddenly decides he's going to remind everybody why he's won so many world championships in Formula 1. A 1:18.001 from the Dutchman, but will we see any more improvements here? Could we see anybody deep into the 1:17s? Only time will tell, but we just want to try and get a good lap on the board then. I've got no idea how much grip we're going to have on these soft compound tyres. As always, as long as we end up going quicker than P9, I will be quite happy there. We've been able to kind of fight a little bit further up. The car does seem to have kind of found something extra in these last few races as well. Just maybe a deeper understanding of the setup. As there we go, Verstappen 17.9, utterly ridiculous around this LaSalle circuit. But how close can we get for that lap time? Currently 300ths down on Russell. I don't even know what lap time he's done at the moment, but I'm sure we'd help out the Ferrari drivers if we can out-qualify him. Just throwing the car through all of these long flowing corners around this lap. Just want to try and get one really nice tidy hook-up run around this circuit there, using all of the available curb as we make the long run up in towards this final sector. Leave it in 7th gear, just allows you to keep the revs up, and that is really important there. It's still basically exactly the same as George Russell at the moment, who's on in the 1:18.5. But we've got to be super brave through these final couple of corners there. Use a little bit more battery, brake at the 50-meter board, 4th gear, tip the car in, attack the curb, get on that throttle as early as we can on the exit, power back down towards the line. 18.7, we go P8. Well, there we are, Verstappen on pole, just ahead of Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, ready for the sprint race. George Russell, again, he will be looking to just score as many points as he possibly can. Keep using that buffer, keep leaning on that buffer in these last few Grand Prix. But once again, we've been able to keep up with the top teams in qualifying. Often we find that we struggle a bit more in race pace, but we're starting in 8th. Hopefully we could score a sprint race point.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. So we're back here in LaSalle, and this is the track map. 3.34 miles, 16 turns, and just one DRS zone out of turn 16. It's already a fast and flowing track after all. There's a good overtaking opportunity with DRS though, through the long straight and into turn 1. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Russell, Piastri, Tsunoda, Ocon and Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Albon, Colapinto, Paul Aaron and Hadjar, Stroll, Lawson, Pepe Marti and Jack Crawford, Behrman, Doohan, Bortoletto and Nico Hulkenberg rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Well, basically my goal tonight is try and build up a little bit of a buffer ahead of Alex Albon so we can head to Abu Dhabi without having to worry, unless he gets a miracle, that he is going to be able to jump us in that Williams car. Team do not believe the soft compound tyre is viable in this one, so I guess this gives us a good opportunity to practice for the main event on the medium compound there. Piastri gambling it though, so is Ocon and Antonelli. 5 red lights are on here for the Qatar sprint. And it is lights out, and away we go then. Lots of wheel spin, as pretty much everybody is on soft compound tyres behind me. In towards turn 1, we're going to dive to the outside of the corner to try and get around the outside of a couple of people there. Franco Colapinto, and I believe that was Andrea Kimi Antonelli, is, well, my main rival, Alexander Albon, then has immediately said thank you very much, and is up into P9 off of the start. Has Verstappen held on at the front? Yes, he has. But more interestingly, Russell, he's actually lost a place to his teammate Oscar Piastri then, as Albon getting a little bit tripped up in the dirty air of the cars in front, so we will dive it down the inside of the Williams man and back up into P9. I guess my only real hope then in this sprint race is that those soft compound tyres really begin to fall off quite quickly here, and maybe we can capitalise on Esteban Ocon by doing that, but I don't know whether any of our other runners have started on the softs as well. They're a little bit higher up. It's the kind of thing Verstappen would try and gamble. If I remember correctly, it might have been in the driver career mode last year, but he ended up doing like 13 laps on a set of softs in race trim, which was utterly ridiculous as well that weekend. But getting towards the end of lap 1 though, the Dutchman's still leading the way. Leclerc and Norris, they need to outscore Russell here. They will want to head into the GP, less than 25 back. That's going to be quite difficult to do, though. Well, no idea what's going on just in front, but one of the Ferraris seems to be really struggling at the moment, as the other one now has moved to the lead of the Grand Prix, so could this be one of their championship hopes unravelling at the moment? I mean, as long as they both outscore George, there's a fair chance they're going to head to Abu Dhabi still with a mathematical shot of the crown. And again, if any of you guys have watched the driver career mode over on Map 2 and 2 gameplay, you'll know that season, well, Verstappen, he went into Abu Dhabi with a 23-point lead over Lando Norris, basically took himself out of the Grand Prix, and then Norris went on to win. So one of the biggest overhauls, I think, since Kimi Räikkönen back in 2007. But trying to make our way, though, down in towards the final few corners once again. Almost a half distance in this sprint race. The mediums, they'll be an alright race tyre. I think the hards are going to be our best friend, but they're not bad. Most importantly, we're pulling away from Albon and Colapinto behind. Come on then, one more lap to go. Lando Norris, he's just starting to build a little bit of a buffer up again against Oscar Piastri here, so see his former teammate back at McLaren. Really now just trying to hang on towards the end of this, but at the moment, Charles Leclerc out in front though. Every point matters for the Monegasque man. For Verstappen, he's just trying to win races at the end of the year to have some fun with it, as he will have a look to the inside of Charles down in towards turn 1. Can't quite make the move happen that time round. We'll drain a load of battery back in towards T1 there as Russell. Surely, if you're Mercedes, you're giving team orders here, yelling at Oscar Piastri to let your teammate by. You know, these championships can be won by a single point. They have done before. Oscar Piastri, if you remember back on F1 24, beat me to a championship just based on countback. We were tied at the end of the Las Vegas Grand Prix season finale, but just see how much we're willing to throw the car into the corners, but how little we've got on the exit. I need to just be a little bit closer to Esteban Ocon if I want an opportunity against him here. Into this final few corners, I mean, it's basically all or nothing, isn't it, for us? We're not going to score any points if we finish in P9 there. Leclerc, though, up at the front of the order. He's done a very, very good job today after Verstappen set quite an ominous message by the end of qualifying yesterday. Leclerc, unperturbed by that, in through the final couple of corners. He is going to win the sprint race here in Qatar as we try and send the car in towards the final couple of turns. We will get right up to the back of Ocon, but nothing we can do about it. It's P9 in the end in the sprint. Very painful. Well, there we are then, Charles Leclerc, great way to kick off the weekend. The full 8 points here in the sprint, just under 0.4 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly in P3, just ahead of Carlos Sainz. Nobody inside your top 11 finished exactly where they started there. Bit disappointing for me that we went the wrong way, but, you know, by's the by. Like I said again, it's so difficult to try and keep up with those big teams here, especially around a circuit like this. Ollie Behrman, your one retirement from the sprint race. Isaac Hadjar, a bit disappointing to see him finishing all the way down in P18. It does mean, though, championship-wise, Leclerc now within 25 points of George Russell. So Lando Norris, he has to basically win the Grand Prix to guarantee himself heading to Abu Dhabi with a chance. Constructors-wise, though, Ferrari, they need to they basically need Mercedes not to outscore them by 21 points in the GP. It's basically just going to require a Ferrari mechanical failure. If that does happen, and if it is Leclerc, that is going to be devastating for him.
It's all about flow and pace today, qualifying in Qatar. A high-speed test that will set the grid for tomorrow's race. So welcome along.
Well, heading out then into real qualifying here from Qatar then, hoping, of course, with only 3 sets of soft compound tyres, that we can make it through Q1 and Q2 without any major problems. But we'll wait and see as to what happens here. Obviously, getting the laps hooked up again, super important. Effectively, it feels like every session is now one shot. Obviously, if I do make a mistake in Q1, then I can obviously go out and use a second set if I need to. But will leave us very damaged if we can make it through into Q3 there, as trying to throw the car up through the top of the circuit. Fairly clean and tidy so far. Again, Q1, we don't need to kind of put it all on the line to make sure we get into Q2. Isaac Hadjar, though, all the way down in P18 at the moment, so a little bit of a disappointing start to the Grand Prix proceedings here from our teammate, but throwing the car through towards the end of Sector 2, trying to get it tucked up on that apex. Doing a fairly good job so far on this lap. What's the gap to our teammate? 1.7 seconds. By the time we get into Sector 3 there, got to remember again, leave the car in 7th gear to try and make sure we get the rotation through the front end as best as we can. A little bit wide again there, as the grip just not quite in the circuit as it cools off after the sprint race earlier on. One more corner though, mash your foot to the floor, get on that ERS once again. It is going to be a 1:19.7, sorry. We go P7. Well, there we go then, Q1 in the book. Charles Leclerc again fastest, half a second clear of Pierre Gasly. George Russell all the way down in P9 then. But have we had any surprises out in Q1? Isaac Hadjar goes slower than Gabriel Bortoletto in the Sauber. That's slightly alarming. Paul Aaron also went slower than the Kick Sauber car as well. But Haas, on a weekend where they could show a lot of potential here, both Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Jack Crawford are not able to get the lap hooked up. Ollie Behrman, Jack Doohan and the whole Alpine team, they can breathe a little sigh of relief. Well, I forgot as well, I have actually trimmed out a little bit of wing from the car, where we were so fast through the corners, but so slow down the straights yesterday. I know we can't do a lot about most of it against the AI inside this game at the moment, but yeah, definitely able to try and obviously give ourselves a bit of a better fighting chance, so it will make that Sector 3 really difficult to get hooked up. Haven't changed the wing angle by much, only about 3 on the front and rear, but when you factor in on F124, we were running maxed out downforce around this circuit. F125, it's not quite as bad, but still need to make sure we get the lap hooked up there, as that's the line I need. Up through 3, and just about hanging on to it through turn 4 as well then, as just get the car rotated down through the hairpin. I'll just try and use a little bit of battery around the rest of the lap, but hopefully, yeah, this lap will come together. Let's have a look then to see what the gap is by the end of Sector 2. 1 second up again on the time set by Jack Doohan. So as long as we keep it clean and tidy, we should be fine there. I mean, this should still be easy flat in qualifying trim. This final one, yeah, once you kind of get the front end worked out where you need to tip it in, not too difficult to try and get right, but at the final corner then, foot towards the floor as we power back down towards the start-finish line. 19.3, we go P5. Well, there we go then. That's a bit more of an interesting surprise. Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon perhaps revealing their cards a little bit earlier in Q2 here. George Russell ends up P3 just ahead of both of those Ferrari cars. Let's not forget, if he beats them today, he could still wrap up this championship with a race to spare there. Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly just ahead of myself, and then Liam Lawson making it into Q3 just ahead of Alexander Albon as well there. Yeah, quick just double check, obviously. If George won today, he would be world champion. All he needs to do, is outscore Leclerc by 4 points, or just not lose 5 points to Lando Norris, and the championship will be his. Well, Liam Lawson then, he's set a time of about a 120.1. Oscar Piastri on a 119.1. So those are kind of the two cars directly in front of me that have got times on the board. Hopefully, at the very least, we're going to go quicker than that Aston Martin. But I would love to spring a surprise against Oscar Piastri as well there. Trying to use a little bit of ERS before we got back round to the start-finish line. And then smash on the anchors at the 50-metre board down in towards turn 1 there. Rotate the car from the right over to the left and then back over to the left-hand side. Try and use, again, a little bit of battery as we make our way up in towards turn 4. Braking just after the 50 down into 6th gear. And then if you get it right, it's flat out right the way through the exit of the corner. Again on the anchors 50-metre board, try to attack the curbs. Luckily on F125, they're pretty forgiving, unlike obviously what we saw a couple of years ago in real life there. 4th gear as we make our way up through the top of the circuit. A lot of medium speed corners around this venue. And we'll just try and get the nose tipped in there. A little bit of extra curb on the inside through the entry. And then we'll try and again use a splash of battery to carry the speed up in towards sector 3. 2/10 up currently on the time set by George Russell, but we'll see if we can hang on to that. Or through these final few corners there is a little bit hesitant to try and get the nose rotated in. Again running a little bit wide as we make our way down in towards that penultimate corner. Just try and get on that throttle as early as we can on the exit of the final turn. Quick blast back towards the line. It is going to be an 18.9. We go P8 again. Well, there we are. Half a tenth clear of Oscar Piastri when all is said and done, but Charles Leclerc fastest on a 1:18.0. So won the sprint race yesterday, is looking in a pretty good spot, ready for the main event today. If things were to end like this, I believe it would be a 3-way championship decider when we make it into Abu Dhabi next weekend. But whenever in this career mode has a race started and ended in exactly the same order, unless it's Monaco.
Welcome back to Qatar and the Lusail International Circuit, a track that has a long history for two-wheeled motorsport action. But tonight it's the four wheels of F1 that are back, and Lewis Hamilton going for another win here. So we're back here in Lusail, and this is the track map. 3.34 miles, 16 turns, and just one DRS zone out of turn 16. It's already a fast and flowing track after all. There's a good overtaking opportunity with DRS though, through the long straight and into turn 1. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Gasly, Esteban Ocon and Sainz, Tsunoda, Piastri, Lawson and Alex Albon, Colapinto, Doohan, Pepe Marti and Stroll, Russell, Antonelli, Jack Crawford and Gabriel Bortoleto, Aaron, Hadja, Hulkenberg and Ollie Behrman rounds off the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Well, here we are then, lining up down on the grid, ready for the Qatar Grand Prix here in Lusail. We used the medium compound tyre yesterday. We know that's probably going to be our best bet as we head into the Grand Prix today. But 29 laps ahead of us. It's high downforce, I'm sure, this circuit. Never mind the temperature, but it's still brutal on an F1 driver's body. Waiting, though, on the grid. Penalties for George Russell gives Ferrari a big opportunity. It's lights out, and away we go then, as trying to avoid too much wheel spin on the initial launch. We didn't get a very good start yesterday. Hoping we can do a bit better with it today there as well. We were just getting a bit boxed in down in towards turn 1 there. We had contact with Liam Lawson who still somehow finds a way down the inside. And once again, it's Alex Albon that seems to be able to put that Williams in a fantastic spot at the start of a GP, and immediately will make up progress then. We did see those cars, they were our nearest rivals a little bit further behind yesterday, but we know what the goal is this afternoon, is again to try and stick with Oscar Piastri and the rest of our front runners early on, as Leclerc already, his goal I'm sure at the start of this race, build up a gap over Max Verstappen, because he knows the Dutchman, you know, Max again, a bit like Vegas last weekend, he doesn't care what happens in the World Championship. He's purely invested in trying to make sure he scores as many points as he can. I'm sure if this was real life, though, he would probably be willing to help Leclerc just a little bit, simply because obviously he and George Russell don't get on very well. But making our way then in through Sector 3. That's a little bit ragged on lap 1 there. Again, got to remember the slightly reduced downforce figures on the car. Just got to take it a little bit easier as we make our way through these final couple of corners. But yeah, Leclerc and Verstappen streaking away at the front of the order. Lando Norris, not a great start for him. As his bad start to the Grand Prix weekend gets even worse, as one of their cars into the pit lane there, as Russell thought he was going to commit a little bit more to the apex, but around the outside will go. And we're back up then into P8. Can we stay inside the DRS of Piastri? That is the big question early on. There we go, that's important. Already got the DRS then, is Alexander Albon. No idea how he's dropped back 2 seconds in the space of a single lap, but you can see now Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz there having a little bit of a battle just in front. Of course, we saw in the sprint race the AI kind of spreading out quite rapidly here, so I wonder if we're going to see the same thing in the main event. But Russell as well, he hasn't really made any progress at the start of this one. I mean, how wild would it be if we went to Abu Dhabi and it was Leclerc leading the World Championship? At least George knows he probably shouldn't have to take any more grid penalties, but Mercedes are always unlucky in Qatar. As we're getting closer and closer to the pit window then, first of all, yeah, that left front tyre again is looking very, very angry at the moment, so don't think that's going to be very fun to try and get all the way to the end of lap 13. But Esteban Ocon here now suddenly struggling a little bit more as well. So I think he might be having some tyre wear problems. It's round the outside on the brakes will go. Can we make the move work all the way around the outside of the Red Bull? Yes, we can. And back up then into 7th place. Or I think for the first time today, up into 7th place here. But Oscar Piastri, I think, just trying to get a bit of a run on the pair of us now. He senses that opportunity. Again, Oscar, very, very decisive in when he kind of goes for it. But we could potentially leave Esteban Ocon kind of for dust here if possible. Russell as well isn't really closing in, so yeah, George has kind of got himself back up into the points, and apart from me, I think Mercedes, yeah, probably the slowest of your big 4 teams this weekend, as they have been so often towards the end of the year. So as long as we can kind of tag along with these guys, Russell might not be any quicker than me. Oh, we've got yellows, someone's breaking down. Oh, it's Carlos Sainz just in front of us then. Huge engine failure for the McLaren man. Well, I guess for Ferrari, that's a sigh of relief that it's not one of their cars out of this Grand Prix, but Sainz then our first casualty of the afternoon as we get ready to dive into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Maybe we can get an undercut on Oscar Piastri, although, yeah, Pierre Gasly 5 seconds up the road. Certainly not going to get near him. Final corner into the pit lane then. We've got to be aggressive on this entry. There is plenty of time that can be won and lost, of course, at the moment. Oh, a little bit early. Should have probably gone a little bit more brave there, but hopefully we'll come back out in the range of maybe that Alpine car. I mean, the AI, they have really, really split up in this race so far. I mean, I know it obviously happens a lot better in F1 25 than it ever did on 24, but that is crazy. Very long hold as well.
Fantastic stop, faster than we were expecting.
Jack Crawford's been able to take a set of soft compound tyres as far as I was able to take the medium, so very good going by him.
Pit strategy complete.
There we go, all of our front runners then into the pit lane, as I think actually Verstappen got jumped by one of the Ferraris through the pit window, so I'm not too sure exactly what happened there. I think Verstappen had a slow pit stop, because he's come out right in these guys' clutches, as we're going to get the jump then on Ocon and Piastri as well. Admittedly, probably not for very long, but a 2-lap undercut on Pierre Gasly helped us gain 0.3 of a second over him. That's pretty painful. Oh, come on then. Esteban Ocon finally got back inside my DRS range here, so... Yeah, Oscar Piastri, though, both Mercedes really do seem to be struggling at the moment. But I think Russell is just a little bit quicker than his teammate, as there will go Ocon up into P5 once more. But as long as, again, we can hang on to his coattails, he should be alright. Gap to Russell... sorry, the gap between the two Mercs, even, I should say, 1.5 seconds. But hopefully now, Ocon's been going quicker than Oscar. If we can just hang on to the Red Bull, we might be able to pull away and give ourselves some safety. Not only does that work well for me, but also for Lando Norris here, because he needs Russell to do quite badly if he wants to stay in this fight, because it doesn't look like he's going to win. Oh, we've got yellows, we've got yellows. That's, I think, a Williams going slowly. It's either a Williams or an Alpine. Don't say it's Ollie Behrman again. He can't have had 2 mechanical failures this weekend. I think that's a Williams, though, isn't it? So, Alexander Albon, a pretty disappointing night tonight, and after a puncture last weekend in Vegas, things going from bad to worse for our main championship rival.
2.1 seconds.
I mean, I think if we were able to pick up this P6 this afternoon, then it should be pretty much done and dusted in the World Championship against Albon. A 9-point buffer heading to Abu Dhabi. He'd need a bit of a miracle there, but I guess that's good for Mercedes and Ferrari. This game will only allow 2 mechanical failures per race, and we've had them both. I don't know whether we got the DRS off of Pepe Marti, but it's surely going to be close then, as Oscar Piastri did get held up a little bit behind Nico Hülkenberg as well. We will claim a nice slipstream off of Pepe Marti.
Dropping back by about 0.3 a lap. Well done.
Hopefully he's going to dive out of the way. Yes, he will. Got to be a bit careful with the AI on this game. They will jump out of the way, but only if you're not kind of trying to get as much of a slipstream as possible. Otherwise, they kind of panic and don't really know what they're doing. But at the front, though, Verstappen's still hanging on ahead of Leclerc and Norris, or it might well be Norris and Leclerc at this point. I've got no idea how that battle is looking, but it means absolutely everything for our World Championship. If one or both of those Ferraris can find a way through, it'll give them a golden opportunity, 7 extra points closer to George Russell, and that kind of momentum is what World Championships will be decided by this time next week. It looks like we are going to see a 3-way championship fight, unless something very dramatic happens towards the final lap here. Just trying to keep Oscar Piastri out of our DRS range one more time. The gap is 1.2 seconds as we make our way in towards the DRS detection point there, and I think we should be good. For George Russell, again, it's been a pretty good recovery drive, but he's basically finished where he should have here, as one of those Ferraris getting a big run on Verstappen down in towards someone. To the inside they'll go, and I don't think the Dutchman has got much fight for it that time round. Are they comfortably through? I think they are. No, they're not. They're still wheel-to-wheel just up in front. I'm trying to work out what's going on based off of the mini-map there, but Ferrari, I don't know which one it is. They are through, though. My money's on that being Charles Leclerc here. I can't help but feel that Lando Norris might just be struggling a little bit towards the end of this race, but they've still got some lap traffic that they need to try and find a way by. I will be very, very happy if we can hang on ahead of Oscar Piastri on this last lap, but I'm pretty certain as well. Yeah, this result is going to comfortably give Ferrari that Constructors' Championship before we head to Abu Dhabi next weekend there, as cars jumping out of the way. Like I said, I've got no idea which Ferrari it is that's leading at the moment. I was hoping Mark would come over the radio and say that one of them's just made a pass for the lead, but in towards the final few corners, both Ferraris, they are going to head to Abu Dhabi with a mathematical chance at the World Championship. Either way, Russell is still going to be leading up the top of the table. Is it Leclerc? Is it Lando Norris out of the final corner, getting the run back to the line? It is Charles Leclerc in a clutch scenario will win the Qatar Grand Prix through the final corner. Very, very happy with P6. That is our best result in a long time.
Charles Leclerc, what a drive, what a victory, he wins!
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
It's time to bring out the bubbly and spray it around. It's our podium celebrations. And who gets to take the top step of the podium? Yes, it is I, Leclerc, Charles Leclerc on top.
Well, there we are. Charles Leclerc, he needed a big weekend's worth of points, and that's exactly what he's done. Sprint race winner, main event winner. Admittedly, he left both of them pretty tight. I think Max Verstappen has led a lot more laps this weekend, but Leclerc leading the only lap that matters, and that is critical for him. Max Verstappen, 3/10 away in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. Lando Norris in P3 when all is said and done in the GP. Their top 5 finished exactly where they started today, and only myself and Oscar Piastri gained a spot because obviously Carlos Sainz had that mechanical failure. Russell, like we said, a decent drive to P8. I don't think you could expect him to do a lot more than that. And then 36 seconds behind Franco Colapinto and Lance Stroll there. I never really realised just how much of a gap over the rest of kind of your midfielders we had by the end of the GP. Goes to show just how ridiculously powerful the DRS is still around this circuit. Isaac Hadjar just hung on the lead lap there. Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoletto, Pepe Marti, Hulkenberg all failing to do so, with Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz both finishing 1 lap down. Disappointment for the IRL Williams lineup. But what does that do to our World Championship? Well, it means as we head to Abu Dhabi then, 1 point in it between George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Between those two, it is winner takes all in that season finale. Lando Norris 19 points back. He will need to win that race and hope that Russell and Leclerc both have a bit of a nightmare. But like I said, remember, if you guys watch the driver career mode, Norris went into Abu Dhabi 23 points back behind Max Verstappen and was still able to clutch up and win it when Verstappen ran into some problems. We've now got a 9 and 11 point buffer ahead of Alexander Albon, so I think we should be pretty safe heading into that season finale. Tsunoda now just 2 points back behind Isaac Hadjar. I think I've done a couple extra races as Isaac this year, but it would be quite funny if we leave both of our drivers tied by season's end. It's a bit of a shame that it's probably going to be whoever I drive as is likely going to hold on to that position. But that being said, Abu Dhabi's pretty tough, so maybe even if I drove as Yuki, we won't be able to score the points we need to. Constructors-wise, though, Ferrari, they have done enough. They are officially Constructors' champions. Mercedes still, well, they've locked up P2. Red Bull have locked up P3. McLaren have locked up P4. We've locked up P5. Williams have locked up P6. Aston Martin, Haas, Alpine could technically still swap around, but I'm pretty certain they're all looking pretty safe as well, unless Alpine can get a miracle result in that season finale. And I guess Sauber basically need a great result on Kankback, which I'm not really holding out any breath for either. Thank you all so much for watching, though. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourselves subscribed, and we'll be back later on this week ready for the season finale, a 3-way championship decider out in Abu Dhabi. You guys do not want to miss it.